I'm Ron Hockmeister, and I am Vice President of the Committee for an Open Waterfront, and one of the two people that work in constructing the model. We've got working with the design team, and a lot of this, what we did feeds off of a model or a design that we put together in 2013. So we've carried it one step further, trying to take into account all the crazy things that are going on right now with parking and whatnot. So we're going to start here. This is a case for the Central Waterfront 3D planning tool. So what we've done is developed a 3D model that carries the 2013 model forward and makes it more appropriate for what's going on these days. So I'm going to start out with an introduction, talking about the waterfront history and the setting and kind of what's happened over the years. That'll be real quick. A little bit about the Newburyport Redevelopment Authority, something about ourselves, the Committee for an Open Waterfront, the Waterfront Trust, who manages the park and the ways of the water out there now, and then the Ad Hoc Committee, which was set up last year to try and bring all the parties together. So starting out, I think everybody's probably pretty familiar with the 1635 date for when Newbury was established down in the Parker River, and it didn't take very long before people realized that the Merrimack would have probably been a better place. A lot of people moved up in this direction, and by 1655 through 60, the waterfront expanded. Shipbuilding became an established industry down there, and through 1600 through 1700s, the public ways to the water, as all this infrastructure started getting set up, separating the people from the waterfront. The public ways to the water were established, which gave the public the right to be able to access the waterfront in between the warehouses and along the docks and whatnot. And I believe what I've heard is that that's guaranteed in the Magna Carta. That's where that came from. So that's a pretty old rule. Late 1700s, Newburyport became a trade center for the West Indies and Europe. So it was fairly successful at developing the maritime industry. 1811, that was the big fire, and that's where we got all these brick buildings with the firewalls in between. So the basic look that we've got down here is a result of the fire from 1811. In 1851, the city of Newburyport was incorporated. Actually, the last slide talks about Newbury's port, not Newburyport. And the city of Newburyport was incorporated in 1851. In the 1870s, West Indies trade and the shipbuilding economy kind of peaked, and long, slow decline over the years. Between the 1930s and 60s, Newburyport economy was declining. Route 1 bypassed us, and pretty soon the freeway went in and really bypassed us, and so the town just didn't have the traffic, the throughput that they used to have. In 1959, Newburyport launched the Central Business District Urban Renewal Project, and in 1960, the next year, the Newburyport Redevelopment Authority was born. So Newburyport Redevelopment Authority, if anybody goes to their meetings, they've got a mission statement which they read, and it's to revitalize the blighted area, the deteriorated areas of the city by attracting private investment. So it's basically it's a restoration to restore and bring business and try to feed the economy. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Newbury, NRA History, they were incorporated in 1960, 60 through 67. They started acquiring property by eminent domain and started tearing down some of the buildings through the 67 through 69. And a lot of people wanted to pick up buildings and restore them, and the NRA was pushing back against that. So they were trying to clear the whole area, have a clean slate, and then come up with a brand new plan. So as these federal era buildings started coming down, people started getting a little heart pain. In 1970, the demolitions activity was halted by public protest. In 71, the NRA Urban Renewal Plan was revised to encourage building preservation. Market Square Historic District was created, and Newburyport was the first urban renewal project in the United States to receive HUD funds to restore rather than to tear down. Redevelopment of Newburyport downtown district has been an undisputed success. I think everybody loves the feel that has resulted from that. and then but now the central waterfront. So the next issue, central waterfront. COW, the Committee for an Open Waterfront, our mission statement to assure the preservation of open central waterfront free from additional buildings and structures on the shores of the Merrimack River. To preserve public access to the open central waterfront on the shores of the Merrimack, and to maintain unobstructed views of the Merrimack River from Merrimack Water and Green Streets. So our vision for the central waterfront is to emphasize the and restore Newburyport's maritime heritage, to celebrate it, to integrate our waterfront park and boardwalk with the Merrimack River, to maintain unobstructed views of the Merrimack River from Merrimack Water and Green Streets, and to ensure that the central waterfront remains free of buildings and accessible to the public. So more of COW's history. 1971, the NRA decided to offer up the 18.4 acres on the waterfront, known as the Central Waterfront. In 1972, the Friends of Newburyport Waterfront, so a predecessor to COW, formed opposing the expansive NRA waterfront plans. And you got to see those plans, they were expansive. I mean, it was amazing what they were going to do down there. 1972 to 76, the NRA initial waterfront development plan was defeated in federal court. The Friends won. And in 1977 through 1980, the public ways trials started up and were finally settled in 1980. Final court decision settling the Friends case established 6 of the original. There were 11 ways to the water that had been established between the 1600s and 1700s. And 6 of those were recognized, and 2 waterfront parks were established or recognized. So that was a result of that trial. In 1989, COW formed for the next step, and which is the Roger Foster Hotel. And when you go out here, you'll see a model of that. So the lands that were set aside for the parks, that was all set up. But now there was land left. So about half of it was left. And that land, they were looking to fulfill their mission. And so they're going to maybe put a hotel down there. 1999, lengthy lawsuits resolved this dispute, and the hotel project kind of ended. So between 1972 and 2013, there were multiple attempts by the NRA to develop the central waterfront, which have all eventually gone by the wayside. 2013, with no plans on the table, COW developed an alternative concept for the central waterfront property. The problem with the waterfront is it's jointly owned. It's like I was saying, it's, if I can find a place to put that, it's checkerboard. So one person owns this, somebody owns that, somebody else owns this, and you can't have nothing linear working there. It's all spotted up. So there is no comprehensive plan for the waterfront. So COW sat down, we got our design team together and came up with a plan, and we rolled that out. I don't know how many times they gave that presentation, but all over the place. And we were at that point trying to stop the development put these gigantic buildings on the waterfront, and they would have encompassed the park as it exists now. I think one of them was 240 feet long, which is huge. So COW vision, to emphasize, before I mention those different things, to emphasize and restore our links with our maritime heritage. So the maritime trade and transportation, this is our heritage as a city of Newburyport. Shipbuilding history, commercial fishing, and then also there's recreational boating out here, and we want to maintain public access to the water. Another point was to integrate the waterfront park and boardwalk with the Merrimack. So a park and waterfront design that's more inviting, accessible, and supportive of maritime uses. An open park design that spans the waterfront, goes across these crazy ownership property lines, and feels more like it's connected to the river. And then flexible parking lot design, expanding uses for diversified events. So not parking lots that are just parking lots, but maybe portions of them could be used to have a car show or other kinds of events. So next one is to maintain unobstructed views, to maintain the visual connection between downtown Newburyport and the Merrimack. All those buildings wouldn't have done that. And at all costs, maintain and celebrate the historic ways to the water, guaranteeing public access. That's a picture, wrong button. This is a picture of some of those ways to the water here. This is the embayment, and then firehouses here. And then finally provide flexible parking lot design, allowing for various public uses. Waterfront Trust, I didn't even know they had a mission statement. Their mission statement to their website: to hold, manage, maintain, and conserve in perpetuity the natural resources of the public lands entrusted to it for the use of the enjoyment of the residents of Newburyport, West Newbury, and Newbury. In particular, allowing the public free access forever. So, and there's a bunch of other stuff on their website that was really enlightening. So this is they were established to protect the waterfront and the public lands. So we'll keep that in mind for later. Waterfront Trust history. 1991, the Waterfront Trust was established. All the lands that had been set aside by the court decision came under their control, so the park and the ways of the water, Summersby Landing. The trustees have absolute, and I got this from their website, the trustees have absolute control of trust property subject to certain restrictions that are in the Declaration of Trust, the bullet above, including a duty to keep public ways and boardwalk open for the benefit of the general public. So in 2012, the Declaration of Trust, I think, also provides that the city will be supporting and providing maintenance funds. But in 2012, leases, rentals, and use permits and donor gifts have been providing enough money that the trust has taken over that primary responsibility for park maintenance. I think the city still provides some services. In 2016, the trust maintains one of the most beautiful and most used public spaces in the city of Newburyport. Ad hoc committee, last bullet. Ad hoc committee was established in 2015 by the city, by City Council President Tom O'Brien. The idea was to get everybody together and talking. It consists of 11 members representing the city, council, the NRA, trust, harbor master, Kyle, Buffy's on it, our president, Kyle's represented on this, and the settlers. Bi-monthly meetings fostering open discussions between the stakeholders are held to kind of try to shape what's going to happen on the waterfront. And recent meetings have called for disbanding the NRA and turning all the land over to either the city or the Waterfront Trust. No votes have been taken on that I know of, but I may have missed one. Current plans include dissolving the committee at the end of 2016. So at the end of this year, they hope to be kind of everything down in paper, and they're going to try and go away. Here's our alternative concept for the model. Our 2013 goals were to integrate our waterfront park with the Merrimack, preserve and enhance existing waterfront, create new spaces and opportunities for different activities on the waterfront, design landscape parking lots that are compartmentalized and allow flexible use, create environmentally sensitive areas that require minimal maintenance, and to explore and secure project funding to pay for it so it doesn't end up in the taxpayer's lap. The basic concepts that we incorporated into that planning, we're working with a group of planners on this. Preserve and enhance the ways to the water, preserve and improve existing waterfront park, provide a limited visual buffer from the parking lots, so you're not sitting there on your blanket staring at a car radiator. Visually improve the existing parking lots and create compartmentalized and flexible use parking. So this was our base map. Wow. Looks like it's a little washed out. This is our base map, the embayment, waterfront park that exists. So these are the parking lots that are kind of out there now, or at least we're in 2013. Things are a little changed. There's a pop-up park over here. So our first concern was the ways to the water. So that's the first thing that went on our map. So this is restoring, these are the two existing ways on both sides of the embayment when you come down past the firehouse. This is a way that went by the wayside. I don't have a name for that, but it's the one that used to come out of Unicorn Street, and down here, and then all the way down to the water. There's a hole down here in the boardwalk and the berm for it to enter. But nobody's doing anything with that. We got Summersby over here. This is a Ferry Wharf Way. That's another way to the water. It also has an opening down here. It has no name. This is Upper Custom House Way, and then on the other side is Lower Custom House Way, which we weren't considering at the time. We found out more about the ownership of that in the last year. And then we laid in our parks, took out some of the parking, expanded the berm over here. Parking was still a big concern back then in 2013. There were no parking lots to talk about. We did have flexible use. We had porous medium for the materials, so it would be easy to, it's not blacktop. So if you decide, okay, we put a parking lot in, we don't need so many spaces, it'd be real easy to pick that up and just kind of march the park across. But that was just in the design. Then we dropped the parking lots in, like here, 1, 2, 3 here, and then one over there. Added some bushes, and voila, final layout. So this ended up in about a 30, 40-minute talk that I gave 20 times, 25 times around the town back in 2013. But it was sufficient that we were able to stop the buildings and whatnot. So this was a good thing. So now this is 2016. So lots has happened in the last 3 years. So what are today's considerations? Preserve and enhance the open space that's there. That's what we wanted to do before in the plan, but maybe we want to do even more to the open space. Consider today's parking issues. We're going to get a parking lot. So everybody's been talking, well, maybe we can take 100 spaces off the waterfront or something like this. Restore a lower custom house way. Oh, well, it turns out that maybe the city still owns lower custom house way or should own it, let's just say. So right now they've got some infrastructure, some power lines and some water lines and some sewer lines going into it, and there's a chance, I think if the city pushed, they might be able to get that back. But that was a way to the water. We talked to Michael about that. The guy that designed this building said, I will design this building and I'll build it right out to the property lines, but you have to guarantee me you'll have a way to the water on both sides forever. There we go. And then what about the rail trail? I did custom house way. And then the lingering soil contamination and the activity and use limitation on the issue in the parking lot. So you can't dig down more than 2 feet over here without hazmat suits on. So that's another issue. So why build a 3D model? Visualization and a planning tool. It's real easy to visualize what's out there with a 3D model because it gives you the spatial. You got the spatial stuff. You can feel like you're there. You know, flat piece of paper, even with perspective, just doesn't cut it. Communicates scaling and spatial relationships better than drawings do. You can place yourself in the image. You can visualize being in it, just like in the talk I gave in 2013. We did a digital model that had these buildings. Well, if you really want to see what those buildings look like, get in there and fly through them or walk through them and be 5.5 feet tall and see what a 55-foot building looks like. Place yourself in the image. You can do that well. And when we retire out here, you can take a look. Adaptability, we had to be able to, we wanted a planning tool. So we didn't want to build a model and put it in a museum. There we go. What we wanted to build a model that has pieces you can take out and you come up with a better idea. Okay, draw it up and let's build it and drop it in and see if it looks better. So it's a planning tool and it allows that three-dimensional, that's the 4 bullets above, it allows that three-dimensional view to help evaluate it better. And lastly, it's more fun. Hello. 3D models are much more fun than a flat piece of paper. Building a 3D model. Okay, I'm gonna quickly go through 5 things. Design considerations, scaling and mobility, construction materials, visuals from the model. You can see what it looks like from a camera's viewpoint, and implications and discussion. So building the model. So the design considerations, adaptability, like we mentioned, we wanted to be able to show, we wanted pieces that lifted out so other people could try stuff. Ways to the water, treatment, what are we gonna do with the ways? Are we gonna put some back? Are we gonna keep the ones we have? And how many are we gonna put back? Which ones are we gonna ignore? Park and open spaces, the relationship between that, and how do we transition going across? Parking lot characteristics, what are the parking lots gonna look like compared again to our 2013 model? And to what's there. Drainage versus topography. So we're going to play some more with Well, I don't have, I thought I had a picture of it up here. We're going to play some more with the area over in here where the expanded berm goes out to the parking lots in the east lot. Rail trail issues and location, where we're going to put the rail trail. I've seen drawings of it, way up into here and going along next to the firehouse. And we know the Waterfront Trust doesn't like bicyclers riding their bikes in the park, and I don't blame them. They've got pedestrians and kids playing there. So rail trail issues and location, and then the ever-present restrooms. Adaptability. So here's the first bullet. So this is the kind of wasn't the rollout, but the ad hoc committee was meeting. They were discussing plans. It seemed like an appropriate time to bring the model in. And what we're showing here is this is just existing conditions over on this side. So here's the model. Here's the embayment again. So that's north, off in that direction. And we had existing conditions. So there's a big parking lot over here. Over here, we had already put our concept for the revised standard version. But this part lifts off too. So this part of the model lifts out, and you can put anything you want in. This part of the model lifts out, and you can put in the cow concept, the alternative concept that we had over having parking lots. So this part here now already has our plan in it, and then I've dropped that in, and that's the plan over here. Ways to the water. So again, just like before, our old plan had these particular ways to the water. Our new plan has similar ones. This one here, in order to design that parking lot better, we curved it a little bit instead of making it quite a straight a line. This is Ferry Wharf Way. Ferry Wharf Way going down here. We don't have a name for that one. This is Upper Custom House Way, and we have added in Lower Custom House Way. And this is from the settlement document where they won the court case and got the ways to the water. These are the ways that were laid out, and we're not going for 11. We're going for whatever that adds up to. Parking in open spaces. So we have the 2013 cow model. This is a recent drawing from about a year ago. Is Bob here? Oh, he said he couldn't make it. But Bob Ulick with the NRA was exploring maybe with the parking garage going in, maybe we could take 100 spots off. So he removed this area down here and turned it into park, and this area over here and put into park. Well, once you've done that, it's beginning to look like our model from 2013, except he actually took more cars off than we did. So we said, great idea. So we moved and made the parking lots a little bit smaller, but we got rid of the roadways and stuff. So a lot of wasted space now is parking space. So over in here, we probably only lost maybe 110 spaces, even though we've increased quite a bit the amount of park we have. Over here, Buffy, what was the number? Neither. Yeah, I don't either. I forgot to bring it. Anyway, it's about what they were talking. You can see it's the same drawing basically. Comes down here and goes over. Comes down here. Only they kept the pop-up park up here, and I put parking in, so we don't lose quite as many as their drawing did. So recent NRA drawings, I talked about that, integration of the two designs together and to come up with our 2016 plan. So that's the concept. Parking lot characteristics. So we're going to talk about that. The parking lots over in here will probably be, we want porous, because otherwise you've got to do drainage. And if you do drainage, you've got to do something with the water. So porous is better. You're still going to get some runoff. You're going to have to collect down, in quote, downhill. Oh, I didn't talk about that. In our plan, all this gets filled. Okay, so right now there's 2 feet between the surface and nasty stuff. So down here we're going to be adding, this is at about 6 to 8 feet, and we're going to bring it up to about 10 feet. So another 2 feet, so we'll double the distance. And here's where you get your experts in. Do we need a clay layer? Do you need whatever? It's mostly metals, so they're not going to go anywhere. It's not like they're marching out of the soil or anything. So we're going to do that down here. But on the flexible parking over in here, we're thinking something like this with grass growing through, or and I could put a tent out here, and I could drive a stake in and put a tent up and have a art show or a wedding, who knows what. Over here, these would be more like this. You could still close this lot off because they are still compartmentalized. You could close that off and have a car show. So it's really, you just put a couple of yellow or orange cones in front of the entrance and you got it. And you need permission, of course. So surfaces that look like this for the flexible use space. When you want to, you could park cars in there. When you don't, you could bounce the ball in there too. Lots of stuff. This was from my dog and pony show from 2013, but it shows the types of stuff you can do in a flexible use space. So, you can put tents up because you can drive stakes in. You could have an art show, you could have a car show, a boat show, music. Though, okay, design. We're ready to go into design. We're going to go into drainage and topography, and we have to figure out what we're going to do. And this is a concept for this area. So we started making drawings. How are we going to work this? What's going to happen to the waves of the water coming through? And one of the things we decided is to use swale. Swale. A lot of people haven't heard of that technology. Basically what it is it's a depression that collects water, and usually it allows it to run in some direction. And if we put that out here in the center, we could collect any water that doesn't percolate through and does run off in this direction. We collect it over in here. We run it through a swale area with a bunch of stops so we slow the water down and allow it to aerate, allow any oils and things that come off of the cars, allow that the plants to incorporate that in. So it cleans the water up, it runs down to the end, goes out the same drain it goes out now, except now it's nasty because it just runs right out. So we thought of incorporating that into this area. And this is some examples of what these things look like. You've got this is more rustic, and this is concrete. And you could put rocks there, but this is something that goes into design. This is kind of cool grass. Our design people came up with that maybe for the top of the topography, little area with something like that on the top. But it's you don't cut it. It's just mostly just for aesthetics. So 2013 model, again, going through the differences. We just kept going through these design changes. And this one here, this is even a bunch of overlays on that one. And finally came up with this. And what we have here is, this is the deck area that was in the original model over here. This carries through into this. This elevates you, it allows you to look out over the people walking by on the boardwalk, and it keeps you from getting run over by the baby carriages and whatnot. And this is handicap access. And this is a trail you could walk down. It's maybe crushed gravel or something through this area. And there's hummocks, these topographic things around. The kids can turn somersaults down them. And then this is the drainage area. It picks up the runoff from over in this area. And we'd have runoff, I didn't have that in the drawings, picked up the water from out in the parking, runs it down to the end, cleans it up, slows it down. We have little puddles and some grasses, I can't go back, it's too far. The grasses and things growing in there. So so the concept changed a little bit from before. And this is what one of those topographic features might look like. It's just a little mound. In the model, it's stepwise because we do 2-foot increments in the model. But it would be smooth in reality. So you could cut it in some areas, or you could have different kind of grasses that don't require that. Then we have a profile of what it would look like. So we've got the water down here, got the boardwalk, you step up onto the berm, people sit up in here, and then we've got some of these things in the background. You could sit up on top of one of those and look out. We've got the drainage area over here, we've got the rail trail, and then cars. So that's like a cross-section going back. So what other fun things can we do? So this is often that area, let's say an area right here. So here's the topographic feature in the back, grass, and maybe we carve a little bit out of the front. So you got a trail out in front, you come over here and sit down on some stairs. Just do some fun stuff out in that area. That's up to the designers, and the model doesn't have that kind of detail in it. But it's real easy to come up with concepts of other things to do. So this is our group put together this drawing. What it would look like maybe to sit out on that deck and look out over the water. So you sit in a chair, read a book, maybe you've got some tables, whatever people decide we need. We have some drawings that for shade that show like a mast, like a sailing vessel, and then from the side it has little sails coming down like that. So whatever direction you look, it looks like a sailboat. And that would provide shade and whatnot, I think. Or you could use trees, which is what we got here. Rail trail issues and locations. Okay, rail trail. So some people want to put it way up by the firehouse. Other people want to. What we considered was rail trail versus traffic, cars, and rail trail traffic versus pedestrians. So we don't want the cars running over the bikes. We don't want the bikes running over the people. So what we did was said, okay, we got a parking lot up here. We got a park down here. We need a boundary. There's the rail trail. That's the boundary. And what we'll do is we'll let the rail trail bikers go in here. They're not in the park yet. They're on the edge of the park. They ride, and when they get to here and enter what we're going to call the park, they got to get off and walk. Waterfront Trust doesn't want them riding through the park anyway, so they would walk, and you can see they would go right here. They'd get on, they'd walk over to here, and then they could either go out into the parking lot there, or go down here, and go across and go to the parking lot. But walk through. I mean, it's just a couple hundred feet, but it'll protect the people so they don't get run down. Restrooms, okay, we decided not to get in that battle, but we obviously need them. We didn't think we were going to have to address this because we were getting a Harbor's Master shack, and it was going to have public restrooms. They're down to one toilet now. So it looks like the restrooms is up on the. But anyway, what we'd like to see is the same footprint. You know, no 30-story buildings there, just same footprint. Maybe a small visitor center in the front, but just restrooms in this area. And then we'd have one restroom down here. We'd have that over there. We do have the Black Cow down here that people can go to. They're supposed to have the restrooms are supposed to be open. And then the Custom House has restrooms, and there's plenty of. I mean, how many do we need? So we're set.
And the ale house.
What's that? Oh, that's right, the ale house. Does the ale house have to open them up to the public? Do they have to open them up to the public? The restrooms or not?
I'm assuming they have.
Okay, the cow has to. I don't know what kind of restrictions they put on the ale house. But there should be plenty of restrooms with 440 people capacity. Okay, scale and modeling. Okay, scale considerations. We said, okay, how big a model can we carry? And we said 4 by 6. That's it. So that's the size. So 4 feet and 48 inches fits in my car. So it's a manageable size. And then we thought scale. We want scale universality. What would be bad to come up with the scaling that you couldn't go out and buy a model car for, or a little tree, or whatever. So we went to N scale and model railroad trains, which is 1 to 180, 160, sorry. And our final decision was go to 1 to 180 because that fit 4 by 6 better. So basically 1 inch on our model is 15 feet. N scale, 1 inch is 13.5 feet. Pretty close. You can see that if I put compact cars in the parking lot on the model, they look too big though. So if I put big cars, full size, the compact cars are about right. Anyway, so that's what we decided. That's when we ended up with scaling. Construction materials, strength and stability. The thing had to be solid. We made it out of oak plywood, and we put hardwood maple reinforcing on the bottom, so it's not going to flex. It's solid. It's set. And then availability. What can we get and ease of use for manufacturing. We used just foam board, you can buy sheets of this foam and put posters on them. We use that for our terraces and whatnot. And that's all mounted on masonite, which we thought was going to be fairly stable, and now we find out that it curls with moisture. But it's not too bad. Then we wanted to go for realism, so that's one of the reasons for the scaling. We can go out and buy beautiful little trees and little cars and little people and stuff. And then available technology, but cutting edge. So this was the fun part. So we were trying to figure out how to build the buildings, and we didn't want to carve them out of a piece of balsa wood. So we got a hold of the guy that does the drone flights around here, so two Newburyport businesses, the drone guy, and got him together with a three-dimensional printer. And so he took movies of the buildings from the air. We captured images, about maybe 100 of them around the building, and put them through a computer program and created a 3D image, 3D digital image of the building, color, and hit print. And so our buildings are printed. They're made out of grains of sand that have a little resin drop put in them and a little drop of color. And you'll see that when you go out here if you haven't already looked at the model. And then the last thing was cost, because we're cow and we're poor. So we tried to keep the cost down as much as possible. And we went out and actually talked to a model builder, and this thing would have cost us $15,000, $20,000 to build. So, and we weren't that quite that bad, or even close. Visuals from the model, finally. So, transitions I talked about. So when you're in the parking lot, it should look like a parking lot. When you're in the park, it should look like a park. But you got to have something in between. So where we could, we used ways to the water, we used rail trail, we used things like this to make the division. You can see it goes down here. There's definitely a division, but you can see when you go out there, if you stand over in this corner, kind of look across, you can see that when you're over here, you're going to think you're in the park, and when you're over here, you'll be in the parking lot. So watch the traffic. And then these are some other shots when you're in the park. Having this gone, having this block, we've got the bushes along this edge. They're not high, but like this, just so you don't look at the car radiators again. You're in here. It makes the park feel a little bit more expansive by doing it this way. Transitions, clear change. This is maybe standing on that little hill by the Green Street parking lot, looking out. Here's the street where cars park, right where the street comes out right here, the parking lot comes out here. And you can see when you're here, you're definitely in the park. And this is the parking lot, even though it's got vegetation and whatnot. For the parking areas, maximize use of space. So I use a lot of one-way streets. Two-way streets waste space because the cars are trying to pass each other and they're going past the same parking spaces. So one-way streets, you come into this area here, you go over here, you can turn in here and park. So angled parking, that saves a little bit of space. Go around here and out. So we're trying to minimize the footprint, maximize the number of parking spaces, because we don't want to take away from the park. And you can see what the rail trail looks like going off into the other part of the park and out that way. Visuals, parking areas, maximum use of space. I just said that. It's just another drawing where you can see the arrows a little bit better. Maximum use, one-way streets. I'm redundant. So this is the west. This is the west side. That's why I've got this in. So it's the same type of thing. We've got one-way streets. You come in, you go that way, you go this way, or you go this way, and you go that way and out. And you can come in over here and go that way. So I didn't draw arrows down here. Okay, visuals. So flexible parking areas. And the flexible parking area. So over in here, this is the one that's kind of in the park and not really in the parking lot. Flexible use area. Here we can see it. The custom house. We're sitting right over here in the custom house, and this is. Where am I? That's Water Street. Yeah. Okay. I was trying to figure out where the intersection was. This is Water Street. So here's the area. So we're going to have no lines in there. So when you use it for something else, you're not walking over all these lines. We'll highlight it with little. Jamie had a name for them. I can't think what they're called. But like a little granite monolith or something like that over on the side. A couple of those, or we could just do it with granite blocks that show where the spaces are. So anyway, and then porous materials that we talked about before that with vegetation coming through. So the hummock, this is another area, hummock and drainage area. So this is a close-up, and you can really see what these hummocks look like, and see how much fun it would be to wander, walking through these. And there's going to be vegetation and stuff planted. We'll leave this up to the plant people. But this is kind of what it would look like. And the visual, the deck and flexible use area, that's over here, and then the flexible use area is over here again. Just more shots to show you kind of what it looks like. This is one of the ways of the water coming down. Again, the ways to the water. This is Railroad Avenue Way. This is Central Wharfway. This is, I can't remember that one. Ferry Wharfway over here. Just show you with the visuals. So these are the printed buildings. You got to look at them. They're a kick. And they're made of grains of sand. And then we've restored, or we've put back in Lower Custom House Way, and would encourage the city and whoever has to act on that to try and get that back in there like the architect had planned. This is another way to the water that comes in. It also does not have a name, but it was on that original set of drawings. We know the wharfs that was on, but it's never had a name. Rail trail. So this is where the rail trail goes when you're walking in through here. This is the rail trail where it's asphalt, just like it is everywhere else. Where it's asphalt, you ride on it. When you get up to here, you get off and walk. There'll be little signs. And that is right here, because you're really entering the park. And I consider the flexible parking as kind of part of the park, even though you can put cars in it. Just some more shots of the rail trail. You see how it wanders off into the existing park area. Okay, last, implications and discussion. Ad hoc committee, 3D model rollout. So we rolled out the model at one of the ad hoc committee meetings. I'd say it got a pretty good reception, right? You know, and nobody threw anything at me. Stakeholder response, I'd say was real positive. A lot of people came up and said good job, and we needed this. The whole idea is just to make a plan. You gotta have a plan. Otherwise you start building pop-up parks that you know are going to be taken out in the future, especially when you put one right on the way to the water. And you know we're going to go after that. So with a big plan, any money you spend $100,000, spend it on doing a part of the plan. And eventually, you know, after a couple of years, how long we've been doing this, 25 years? Eventually, it'll be done. Or we could get smart and come up with some kind of an agreement, or get a single owner and go out there and I've already volunteered to start writing grants. We'll get some money and just do it. So stakeholder response was good. Implications of the model as a planning tool. I don't know if I held up a piece and I said, all you need to do is make a drawing and we'll build it, and we'll sit it in the model and we'll compare that plan to what we've got. The Waterfront Trust has voted on our concept, and wasn't unanimous, but it was carried to accept the concept as a good idea and the 3D model. So where do we go from here? Future uses of the model. Well, right now it's a museum piece for 2 months. So we hope that somebody will take us up on that piece of masonite we held up and come up with another plan, and we can drop that in and come up with other ideas. The main thing is, and our design team's out there still doing stuff. They're still working on things. And then mainly we want to keep the discussion going of somehow consolidating the land under one ownership or some kind of an agreement or something, so that we can get a plan and start raising money and writing grants to build this thing. Time has come to finish the downtown waterfront. No need to sell or lease property like they wanted to do back in 2013. Place the entire waterfront under one management, or something that will allow us to go after a grant. No one's going to give us a grant to do a third of a row here and a third of a road here with a blank spot in between. You know, you got to own the whole thing. And you need an integrated plan too then. Keep the water open from the public and make the water planning an open process. So no closed doors, no backroom meetings and stuff. We've got a backroom meeting coming up here in about a week now. Not us, but anyway. Our waterfront park, build it now and protect it forever. And that's it. I meant to say you could ask questions, and I forgot. So anyway, we had a couple.